It's every parent's worst nightmare. A child trapped and injured in a well, swept away by powerful rainwaters, lost in the woods or atop a 200,000-volt power tower. A child sucked into an overpowering riptide and towed out to sea. Every year, thousands of children engage in innocent activities that end up in life-threatening situations. You're about to see some of the most dramatically shattering life and death crises families can face. You'll meet the heroes who put their lives on the line, next on Incredible Child Rescues. Far north in the Granite State lies the little community of Berlin, New Hampshire. Generations of its people have plied their trade in the paper mill industry, fed by the miles and miles of thick, deep forest that surrounds the town. On the outskirts of town, near the dense forest, lives the Patry family, with an irrepressible 3-year-old named Cameron, who likes to play with the neighbor kids and their dogs. In May of 1999, Cameron follows one of the dogs into the woods a little too far. It is the beginning of a near tragedy and of an intense rescue effort that no one wants to contemplate. It all began when the dog returned without Cameron. Everyone was concerned, but no one panicked initially, including his mother.
I mean, we ran around the neighborhood, you know, the usual, because he's been known to walk up to the neighbor's house because his kid's up there and he'll just go play. But he wasn't there.
Locals know better than to go far into these forests without marking a trail, because there's no telling which way is out. By now, police have been called and are scouring the neighborhood, while Cameron wanders deeper into the woods. When you're only 2.5 feet tall, the forest is enormous, and suddenly, nothing looks familiar to him.
We'd walked all the way up to the base of the mountain over there when we were yelling his name, and he was just off the trail and he wasn't answering us. Yeah, I thought somebody took him.
Every parent's nightmare now becomes reality for the Patry family. Lieutenant Martin Garabedian heads up the search, but after 3 hours, he calls in the state police for help. Garabedian knows that Sergeant John Scarinza has all the needed resources to beef up their efforts.
We have shepherds who can do a track. We have bloodhounds who can also do tracks. We have a helicopter that is equipped with an infrared sensing device that can pick up targets on the ground that are giving off heat, such as a person's body.
First to be called into service are Officer Rob Hassey and his German shepherd, Rowdy, both veterans of search and rescue missions in the thick New Hampshire forest.
I think people see a dog show up in a handler and they put their hopes are up because we're like the cavalry and we're going to solve everything, and it's not as easy as it looks. We've got a lot of elements to deal with.
Several hours into the search, the sun begins to set and it's starting to turn cold. Weary law enforcement officers and volunteers resume the foot search, while Officer Scarinza receives bad news. The low cloud ceiling will prevent the helicopter with infrared vision from assisting in the rescue attempt. Their next best hope, another tracking dog, this time a bloodhound, is on the way.
We then decided to go to what we call a detailed line searching, which is basically a group of 15 to 20 individuals who line up, not so much shoulder to shoulder, but keeping the person next to you within eye contact.
It's nighttime now, and the feel of rain hangs heavy in the air. The temperature is dropping rapidly.
We went down into the low 40s and it started to rain, which obviously concerned me because the child wasn't really dressed properly to be out there overnight.
After walking for hours trying to find his way home, Cameron huddles under a tree in the cold, dark forest. He's exhausted, hungry, and scared. Will 3-year-old Cameron survive a cold, wet night in the woods alone? When Incredible Child Rescues continues. It's been 16 hours now, and 3-year-old Cameron Patry is still lost in the dense forest near his Berlin, New Hampshire home.
Cameron!
Through the night, hundreds of people search for Cameron, and the presence of a bloodhound tracking team gave new optimism to these weary searchers.
The bloodhound specializes in tracking human scent. He tracks and finds people.
They were on the trail of Cameron's scent, but that hope quickly vanished when the bloodhound injured his foot and could no longer track. Now, as dawn breaks, the sky is clearing, and the specially equipped helicopter is ready to beam its infrared equipment into the forest. Meanwhile, the ground search continues, breaking a 3-mile area into grids and covering every square foot of each grid. By now, the entire city is hearing about the lost boy, and townspeople are turning out in droves to help the search, and the news is spreading. Melody Nunn hears the story on the radio as she arrives on site at her road crew job.
And this late-breaking news that 3-year-old Cameron Patry of Berlin has been missing now for over 18 hours.
And it was like a force or something took hold of me inside. I could barely breathe, and I just very agitated and anxious.
Melody is moved by this story and wants to help find the little boy. Her boss, Luc Couture, is not surprised. He is aware of her special talents in the ancient art of dowsing and knows that she has the ability to sense things. Luc is less skeptical than most. As a construction manager, he has witnessed the use of divining rods to find water and pipes on construction sites, so he gets a map to help her. Each time, Melody concentrates on Cameron and holds the divining rods over the map. They cross at what appears to be the same spot, but the map is too small to be sure. They need to get one with greater detail.
Then it all dawned on me that there was a National Forest office just up the road, probably 2 miles up the road, and I knew they had maps, larger maps.
While the extensive ground and air search continues, Lieutenant Garabedian meets with the new recruits from the Specialized Rescue Team, Lieutenant Rick Estes and Sergeant Robert Bryant.
It's always difficult when it's a 3-year-old because what you try to do is you try to think like the person that you're looking for. And a 3-year-old it's difficult to get yourself on that level and forecast what they may do or may not do.
And so, you know, your heart comes up in your throat because anytime a kid is involved in any sort of a scenario like that, you get a little more concerned than perhaps if an adult over in that same situation.
The air search has yielded nothing. After 3 hours of using infrared, the helicopter crew thinks Cameron may actually be scared by the noise and hiding from them. They stop to refuel, but they are disheartened not to have made any progress. In the meantime, Luke and Melody reach the Forest Service office and find a more detailed topographical map.
She closed her eyes and used her dowsing rods and put her head down, and then the rods crossed. And where they crossed, she told me to mark it. She closed her eyes again and dowsed over that same map, and it hit the same location. So we tried it, I think, 4 or 5 times, and each time it would always go over that same spot.
Luke goes alone to the command center to tell them of Melody's findings.
I told him that Melody has dowsed over this map, and I told him that she has supposedly had found people in the past.
She's found people before.
Luke is worried. Maybe the lieutenant won't trust this kind of extrasensory involvement.
Dowsers in New Hampshire are like fleas on a dog's back. I mean, it's been done in this country for one reason or another for years.
He let me say the whole story, and then after I was done, he looked at me and he said, "Let's go for it."
A global positioning system is used to plot the coordinates of the exact location, a device that uses satellites to keep them on track as they move through this difficult terrain. The GPS guides them directly to the place Melody pinpointed on the map.
And as we're walking up into this area, it became somewhat depressing simply because we got into a very swampy area that had a lot of underbrush to it.
Elsewhere, the searchers are having no success. For nearly 24 hours, helicopters and tracking dogs have methodically scoured the countryside. Experienced law enforcement officers and hundreds of volunteers cannot find a trace of Cameron Patry. Then, his mother is asked for a picture to post Cameron as a missing child.
That was the part when they were gonna do the missing person, and I had to look through all his pictures, and I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm never gonna see him again, and that was the worst.
Luke and Sergeant Bryant are losing hope. There was no way a little boy could have gone through this rough terrain they're searching. Discouraged, Luke wondered if he and Melody had brought the down another blind alley.
I remember Robert saying, "Oh my God."
Luke.
And I looked over, and there he was.
And he was shivering. He was scared. He was afraid of us. There's no doubt about that.
It's him. So we both ran to him, and I picked him up and held him for a few minutes.
I asked him if he'd like to go see his mommy and daddy, and in his quivering voice said yes.
Cameron is brought down the hill and reunited with his family. It is incredible that this tiny boy had walked uphill and through dense trees and brush to end up a mile from home.
A little pouty face on, like, oh my God, look what I've done. And I think he was overwhelmed by there was a million people standing in front of him, all in uniforms, and he was, he said he went too far.
It was a magnificent effort that brought Cameron home. City and state law enforcement were willing to try every possible method, and the many volunteers were there till the end. And Melody Nunn, the woman with the astonishing gift. She just knew she had to find Cameron.
This was one day in my life, you know, that it's always going to be a special day. And I had a gift that day. And if I never have it again, I won't be disappointed, you know, because he's home.
Up next, this boy's parents are in for the shock of their lives when they find he's climbed a high-voltage tower when Incredible Child Rescues returns. You see this kind of superstructure in every city, towers of power, supporting the heavy electrical lines that surge with thousands of volts of electricity. And large as they are, we learn to look around them, not letting their presence dominate the landscape. But sometimes children are attracted to the towers, and like a big piece of playground equipment, they present a dangerous challenge to the eager young climber. 12-year-old John McNeil of Mesa, Arizona is just such a boy. But his interest in climbing is complicated by the fact that he is autistic. No tower seems too high, no warning fully understood, as his parents know all too well.
John likes to see. He likes heights. He likes to climb trees. In California, we had to cut the trees back from the house. Here we had to cut branches off the tree in the front yard. He could climb on the roof and then climb into the tree. So John was always climbing high, and he liked to look around.
He climbed eucalyptus tree out in front of the house, and I ended up cutting down every branch I could that was within 20 feet of the ground, so he didn't climb that. Autistic children are really different.
It's like having a toddler forever, someone you have to 24 hours keep an eye on. You have to be on constant alert and check on him all the time.
But one day in the spring of 1997, it took only a few seconds for John to slip away and head for the tower.
And John was in stocking feet, so that made it extra dangerous.
Minutes later, John's older brother James goes looking for him, and to his horror, finds John halfway up the tower.
John, hey, come down, John, don't go any higher.
But autistic children are often hard to reach, and John continues his climb. James knows now that he will have to climb the tower and make a monumental effort to overcome his own fear of heights.
Oh, James doesn't like heights.
Hold on, John, I'm coming.
He wasn't thinking about anything but getting John down. That's 125 feet up. He could have fallen. Now, most people with fear of heights would freeze. But James didn't even think about himself. He just was worried about his brother.
Scared as he is, James puts aside his own fear and concentrates on the very real dangers his brother faces. He knows how excitable and unpredictable John is, that any jarring movement could startle him and cause him to lose his balance. And then there are the powerful electrical currents running through parts of the tower, over 200,000 volts awaiting one wrong move, one false step. Their father, Byron McNeil, hears of the crisis on his way home from work.
I was about 30 miles north of Mesa when I heard on the radio that the boys were on the tower. I was quite concerned because I knew that John gets excited. He has a tendency to stand up and jump, and I was afraid that if he got excited that he would pull both of them down and fall. So I was very concerned.
The boys reach the top of the tower, 150 feet straight up, and James concentrates on keeping John calm by singing to him. The Mesa, Arizona Technical Rescue Team was called to the scene. Locally, these firemen are known as the guys the firemen call for dangerous, delicate rescues. But this one is not like any they've done before.
How we got the information was 2 boys on top of a power pole. So on my way there, I'm thinking 35-foot telephone pole, and it was nothing like that.
When they see what they're dealing with, the rescue team has to come up with a totally different procedure, and fast.
And we discussed a lead climbing procedure like you use in rock climbing. So that's what we did, and we have never done that before.
Using this first-time technique, Terry Self and Jeff Mitchell are able to reach the boys and successfully secure them. But now the challenge to bring them down safely is accompanied by another terrifying possibility: high-voltage electrocution.
In this case, with the power off, the power was still stored in the lines because there's so much of it. There's 250,000 volts. It was still stored in there. It was looking for somewhere to go, which could be a body if you got too close. They just spontaneously discharged with no warning.
Of course, the closer you get to the electrical wires, the higher the chance of getting a static discharge, which is like an arc. Arc is about 2,000 degrees. It'll just fry you and you'll die anyway.
Protect against this horrific danger, an insulated 150-foot Condor crane is brought in for the rescue. By now, media crews and spectators have gathered to witness the nerve-wrenching events. But now the crowd, camera crews, lights, and especially the helicopters could actually be contributing to a potentially tragic outcome.
And could see the boys on the tower and the helicopters. And then there were so many people in the area that I couldn't even get to my house. And when he was excited, John liked to flap his arms. I had asked them to back the helicopters off a little because John likes helicopters and they were circling. And I was afraid he'd flap his arms and lose his balance as he got excited.
There were 5 or 6 news helicopters that were flying around, and there were police cars and fire engines that were pulling up, and there was a crowd of a couple hundred people on the ground, so he was actually enjoying all the activity and the action and the attention. So he was just concerned about the helicopters. He was watching the helicopters. And James was scared. He was scared of heights. He was scared to death.
Carrying its frightened passengers, the Condor crane works flawlessly, lowering the boys and their rescuers to safety. The 2.5-hour ordeal is over, and Sandra and Byron are reunited with their sons.
I was just so glad to be able to hug them. I was so afraid. I think I got to hold John, and then a fireman took him and then hugged James and thanked him for taking such good care of his brother.
James had put aside his own personal fears to save his brother in a remarkable story of brotherly love.
For about 2 hours, James was singing hymns, trying to keep John calm. And from what I can see on the videos, John stayed real calm. He didn't get up and jump around like he usually does.
His older brother had a death grip on his hand and on the railing of the tower, and he was just like focused on the tower. I believe he saved his life because I think John would have gotten too close to the electrical lines and gotten an arc or fallen or something like that if his brother hadn't gone up after him. I mean, he kept him still until we could get up there and make sure they were safe.
And I told him that Mom and Dad both would have cried. And at that point in time, John began to cry. And so I knew that he knew that it was dangerous. It's made me appreciate my boys a lot. I nearly lost both of them. It certainly has made me appreciate my family a lot more.
There's nothing in life more precious than our children. The thought of losing them is terrifying. We've just witnessed incredible child rescues by men and women who put their lives on the line to save the lives of our young ones. Knowing that, the greatest gift a parent will ever receive is the return of their child from the perils of certain death. And as for the child, a second chance at life. Summer of 1993. It's a perfect day for two guys to head to the beach. After a long hot ride from Seattle, Washington, Ryan Caskey and Jake Berry are more than ready to jump into the surf.
It was a pretty hot day. The sun was coming out. So as soon as we got there, we were like, hit the water. Time to go swimming.
We started swimming out, and we just dove right in and started swimming. And I've been to the beach many times there, so I thought, oh, I'll just jump in and swim, and then swim right back out.
But the boys don't know what the locals around Seaside know all too well, that dangerous currents lurk in these inviting waters, and they can turn a day at the beach into tragedy.
There's what we call an undertow, and that will pull you out into the breakers and probably run you out either through the breakers or out past them.
Even more dangerous is the fact that these currents happen only in certain areas of the beach, and these areas are constantly changing. Unsuspecting, Ryan and Jake keep swimming farther out. They're about to find out how powerful these ocean currents can be.
We knew that we were out of ways, so we decided that we would just turn around and swim back in.
We started trying to swim back into the shore, and the waves, I remember being pretty big that day. And they kept hitting me, and I was a small guy at the time, about 100 pounds, and they'd hit me and just throw me around, no control at all whatsoever once I got hit by a wave.
And we'd roll forward, and then we'd come up for air, but as soon as we come up, we'd get hit again. But we kept trying this because we felt like we were going forward, but then we just kind of got tired, and we decided we were going to drift back out, take a break, and catch our breath and see if we'd made any progress into shore.
Ryan and Jake are caught in a riptide. These rip currents form when constantly breaking waves force water toward the beach into a narrow jet-like stream. When a low point occurs in the breaker, the water escapes back out to sea, creating a forceful current that flows much faster than anyone could ever swim.
When you get out there, you get caught in your side currents, which are known as riptides, and that will take you either up or down the beach. And the first thing you do, instead of going with it, you fight it.
And that's when a riptide claims most of its victims. It's like being on a treadmill. The swimmer tries to fight and swim through it, but actually goes nowhere, and eventually becomes too tired to swim at all.
We were both pretty fit physically and been swimming a lot, so we figured we could make it back in, but the second time when we didn't make it, we were really scared, trying to figure out what to do.
He kept drifting farther and farther away from me, I remember that. And after a point, I got hit by a wave. I came up and he was gone. And I never saw him after that point. And it was really at that point that fear really started to set in, because I thought, now I'm out here by myself and I'm not making progress and I'm gonna die. That's what I thought. And it was just like no other feeling I've ever had before. To this day, I've never felt that kind of fear.
By this time, the boys have been in the cold ocean for about 45 minutes, swimming hard the entire time. Ryan is stuck in a strong current, taking him farther out to sea. Jake somehow drifts out of the riptide, and now the current is actually helping him get back to shore, but he is exhausted.
And I kept swimming and swimming, and then I remember that my arm started cramping up and I couldn't get to swim anymore, and then my leg followed, and I'd given up, and I just floated back out. And then I just remember saying a prayer and closing my eyes. And then the next thing I actually remember is somebody grabbing me, and they pulled me up on the beach.
Boys, still out there. Get help.
And called 911.
The 911 call summons the local Gerhardt Volunteer Fire Department. It's the kind of emergency that is all too familiar.
Initially, we want to make sure that medics has been alerted, and secondly, if the Coast Guard has been put on alert.
When they arrive at the beach, they can see that Ryan is too far out to reach him from shore. They dispatch the Coast Guard, headquartered in Astoria, Oregon, about 20 miles away. The Coast Guard search and rescue helicopter team is relaxing at the station when the call comes in.
They said that there was a boy in the water in Gerhardt, so everybody moved pretty fast. It was one of the faster times I've ever gotten from the SAR alarm to the time that we were in the air.
It's a 15-minute flight to reach the area, and once there, spotting the top of a boy's head in the vast expanse of water is difficult. Besides, by this time, Ryan is barely keeping his head above water.
My legs were going, my arms were going, just fighting, spitting water out, inhaling water, swallowing water, going under, coming up, just confusion, just getting thrown around. It was like constant movement. All I wanted to do was rest.
Ryan has been in the cold ocean water for over an hour at this point. He has not seen Jake for 30 minutes, and he's beginning to give up hope.
I didn't think I was gonna make it. I'm a half a mile out away from the shore, and it was like, what's the point? Why am I still fighting? And so I started going under the water and just blowing out my air and just trying to end it all. Just trying to stop feeling what I was feeling at that point, which was just pain, agony.
We were flying down the beach and looking out into the ocean, past the breakers, and didn't see anything. Everybody thinks it's easy to see somebody in the ocean, but all you're really seeing is the top of a head or a face or whatever, so it's pretty small in perspective of what you're looking at.
To make spotting him even more difficult, Ryan keeps going under.
And I just wanted it to be over. But right before I was either gonna pass out or I was gonna die, I couldn't stand it. The pain in my lungs was greater than the pain in my body, and so I'd come back up for air.
The rescue team spots Ryan floundering in the water. He seems barely alive.
They turned around as fast as they could and went right into a hover, and I'll have all my gear ready. I'll just scoot up to the door of the helicopter, undo my belt, and jump in the water.
Next thing I remember, I'm looking up into the sun, and I can't really see much, but I see the silhouette of this person, or I didn't even know what it was at the time, you know, whether it was an angel or I didn't know where I was, really.
That angel is Craig Green, who secures Ryan into the rescue basket to be lifted up to the helicopter. Ryan's parents, not even aware of what's been happening, are then notified that Ryan has survived.
You know, I was kind of surprised, first of all, that I was getting a call from Astoria.
And they are shocked to see the footage of the rescue of their son.
To see him coming up in the basket after Craig had put him in the basket, it was like a shell of my son. He was definitely in shock. Ryan recapped the idea that he was going through the thought process of what is more pain, my arms or pressure on my lungs.
I felt that if we wouldn't have got there when we did, you know, just minutes, seconds, whatever, not very much time, that he probably would have died. And I think the whole crew, myself and
everybody was pretty proud that we could do something like that.
Next, 3 boys discover a hiding place they may never return from on incredible child rescues. Like many eastern seaboard states, Maryland, with its breathtaking landscape, attracts families who want to work in the city but raise their children in the serenity and safety of the country. It was just a few years ago that Rod Aguillard and his wife Sandy moved their family to a big house in Hereford County.
This is what's known as horse country. You know, Maryland's known for their horse and their racing thoroughbred farms.
6 acres of rolling countryside were the ideal playground for their 3 young sons.
We thought we had found our dream home.
What they didn't know was that their dream home, like many other properties in the area, had an old well no longer needed when modern plumbing and irrigation replaced it. The well was forgotten, housed inside a quaint little structure that looked like a shed.
No one knew that the well was there. We all thought it was a chicken coop. That's what we thought the building was.
A plot plan would have disclosed the existence of an abandoned well, but it was not required for the sale to the Aguillards. So no one knew that what they thought was a chicken coop was actually a pump house which contained a 45-foot deep uncapped well.
We didn't realize there was any danger here. To us, this was paradise. It was the perfect setup for kids, 6 acres, boys to run around. I mean, we didn't even remotely anticipate danger being here.
On April 8, 1997, 5-year-old Roderick Jr. was playing with his brothers in the yard. They love to play hide and seek, and one of their favorite hiding places is their very own clubhouse, the old chicken coop.
When we were playing in the upstairs part, the part that's a clubhouse now, there weren't any floorboards, they were just sticks and stuff. And my brother's hat fell down there.
The boys can't reach the hat through the broken floorboards, so they decide to pry open a sealed door near the base of the building to get to the lower level.
We used the back end of the hammer to, like, plunge the door open. My little brother went in to get the hat, and then I came in to see what was in there. There's these 2 pipes sticking up from the ground.
As little boys will do, Roderick just has to move closer to the pipes to see what they are. Suddenly, the floor around him begins to crack, and the ground beneath his feet gives out.
It just felt like I was flying. It felt weird, and it made me feel like I was on, like, a little mini roller coaster.
Roderick bumps and bangs his way down the 45 feet of protruding rocks as he falls to the bottom of the well and lands in deep, frigid water. It's a miracle that he even survives the fall.
I kept on banging my head against the sides of the well. I think I, like, came unconscious because I remember, like, staying underwater for a very long time and not coming up. And then I came up after a long while.
Roderick has injuries to his head, chest, and leg, but he bravely clings to a piece of pipe and calls to his brothers for help.
I kept on telling my brothers to go get my mom. And they were just staying there looking down the hall. Then Evander tried to reach down and grab me. But then when I told them again, they went and got Mom.
Roderick's mother anxiously calls 911, and the Hereford County Volunteer Fire Department is quick to respond. Fire Chief Chuck Bollinger remembers the call.
The call was for a boy down in a well. It was undetermined at this point how far down in the well he was.
A rescue from a 45-foot well can be a dangerous situation for both the victim and the rescue crew. The team quickly evaluates the situation and devises a plan, knowing that the slightest miscalculation can result in tragedy. But a 5-year-old boy is counting on them, and his parents stand fearful and horrified as they helplessly wait.
first reaction is because the well was so wide, one of my crew said, man, tie me to a rope, let me go down and get them. And you just can't do that. I mean, you have to make sure that the scene is safe for our crew as well as the person down the bottom. And we had to establish the air quality. We had to make sure that the walls weren't going to cave in.
The well was a stone-lined, hand-dug well, and those stones were very loosely placed, and very easily we could have knocked one of those loose from the top side and had that drop down on top of Roderick and cause further injury.
We immediately put an air hose down there to provide fresh air to him.
But there is another pressing concern. Roderick has been holding on in the 52-degree water for more than half an hour, and his body temperature is dropping, possibly to dangerous levels.
As your body temperature lowers, your body goes through certain changes, and those changes may be anything from as minor as shivering, which is normal when your body begins to lower its temperature, but it may also lapse into confusion, lose consciousness, stop breathing, and ultimately go into cardiac arrest.
Working against time, rescue workers erect an A-frame above the well and a rope and pulley system to lower a man down. Once he reaches Roderick, he'll fasten the boy to a pediatric board, and the pulley will lift both of them up to safety. Lieutenant Mark Gardner of the Advanced Technical Rescue Team is elected to make the descent.
As I was going down, I was telling him, I'm on my way, and I was giving him updates as to how close I was to him. It did seem like it was going to take forever to get down that 45 feet, but in really a relatively short period of time, I was lowered down to him, and as I got closer to him, I kept telling him that somebody was coming down for him, and that I was getting closer to him. As I got about 2-3 feet away from me, and I was starting to be lowered into the water at that point, I explained to him, I said, just stick your arm up as I get close to you. I'm right above you.
I saw a person holding his hand down saying, grab onto my hand.
And when he did, I grabbed a hold of his arm and just pulled him up and set him on my lap. Because I knew he had been thrashing around. I was talking to him and asking him, what was hurting him.
He put a mobilization device on him at that point, almost like a papoose that surrounds the patient, provides neck support, back support. He's lifted straight out of the hole.
After more than 2 hours in the well, Roderick is finally safe and above ground. Rod and Sandy are thankful and greatly relieved.
What we saw first was his head coming out on the stretcher, and we saw the tremendous fear on his face of just what's going on. And I walked directly over to him, just gave him the thumbs up sign and told him we knew it was going to be okay, didn't we? And he said, yeah, Daddy, we knew it was going to be okay.
Roderick is off in a sheriff's helicopter to Johns Hopkins Hospital to be treated for his injuries and severe hypothermia. He's been a brave little boy, and Mark Gardner is credited for his heroic rescue. But Mark is quick to point out it was the teamwork of all the personnel that led to the successful outcome.
There was probably close to 30 or more personnel that were involved from the different companies that came in. Not everybody had hands-on, but everybody had an integral part in doing something to make this rescue go as smoothly as it did.
One of the defining moments of our life was the fireman said to us, your son's alive, he's well. The only way to describe why he survived this was an angel fell down the hole with him.
A happy ending thanks to a brave little boy and the heroes who made it happen. Next, a boy fights for his life in a flooded canal, and a 3-year-old ventures into the thick woods alone when Incredible Child Rescues returns. The spring rains of April 1995 had the Pacoima Wash in Southern California flowing 2 to 3 feet deep, attracting 4 children who live nearby. They know they're not supposed to be here, but they just have to take a look, and a hole in the fence is just too inviting.
Go, look how fast this is going. Hey, Jordan, I dare you to go across.
But the water doesn't look all that deep, and the kids are daring Jordan to try to cross to the other side. Not too far away, Mike Grasso, a Los Angeles police officer, and his best friend Rick Mansour are in Rick's van en route to a meeting. Part of Mike's job is to teach survival tactics to other officers, and Rick Mansour runs a business in Pacoima. Mike doesn't know it, but he's about to put that training into action. Meanwhile, back at the wash, Jordan is a little reluctant to take on the dare. Getting a little too close to the water, Jordan accidentally falls in. The current is powerful, and Jordan is off on what could be a deadly high-speed ride. In the van, Rick and Officer Grosso are approaching the bridge that crosses over the wash, downstream from where Jordan went in. As they pass over, Mike Grosso just happens to look out the window.
We just weren't sure. We backed up and we looked again, and it looked like some clothes or maybe somebody was in the water, and it was whipping him along. We started to drive off, and we both looked at each other at the same time and said, I got a bad feeling about this.
It was such a quick glimpse of something in the water. The men needed to be sure if it was just debris they had seen.
Both of us thought for a minute, well, maybe, you know, we imagined it, and then it was almost simultaneously we got the idea that we can't just drive off and pretend we didn't see something. We gotta go make sure it was either nothing or something and then act accordingly.
So they take off to try to make it to the next overpass before the object makes it downstream. Officer Grosso gets out for a better look.
I looked over the side and I saw him go underneath us, and he screamed, and I ran across and I grabbed the hold of the lock, and I've never seen that type of lock before.
Officer Grosso has keys to any LA city lock, but now he's just outside the city limits, so they speed off to another gate.
And we found this gate, and it was one thing after another was just perfect. I ran up to the gate, my key slid into this lock, the lock as if it was just placed there, brand new. It opened right up, the gate swung right up, and boom, we were off. We were racing down the side, and I kept on looking back, and I couldn't see anybody in the water, and I thought maybe we just got just ahead of them, just enough to maybe do something.
As they race to the water's edge, they know they are only seconds ahead of the boy. They try to put the van in the water to divert the flow, but the current is too strong. Officer Grosso tries to find a rope in the back of the van, but realizes time has run out, and he has to act now.
The next thing I knew, boom, I was underwater. I was flipping around. I felt the boy in one hand, and I had something else in my other hand, and when my head cleared water, I had the boy in my left hand and a man in my right hand.
Amazingly, this other victim was actually underneath the young boy in the water, but Officer Grosso hadn't seen him earlier. Holding tightly to both of them, Grosso and his precious cargo are swept down the channel. Meanwhile, Rick's call to 911 sends the Los Angeles City Fire Department to the scene. The three continue to travel uncontrollably down the channel, with the man yelling in Spanish that he can't swim. Ahead of them is a cement dividing wall, and Grosso has to think fast. He tries to land the trio on the wall.
So I had the boy on one side and the man on the other side, and I hit the wall with my stomach and my chest. And all of a sudden, I was out of the water. And what had happened was the force of the water behind me had pushed me up the wall. And I grabbed the boy and pulled him up and put him in front of me.
Still in great danger, they land on the dividing wall. But the other man loses his grip, goes under the bridge, and grabs onto a cement pole.
When the other man wrapped himself around the pole, he was directly underneath the bridge. And a bunch of citizens, they ran home, grabbed a fishing net, a huge fishing net, and threw it over the side. And he wrapped his arms in it, and they dragged him out of the water to the side of the concrete. At that point, he ran away. And the belief is that maybe he was undocumented and he thought that he would get in trouble.
Still in 42-degree water, Officer Grosso uses his body to protect Jordan from the large stones that continually hit his back. It takes all his strength and will to hold on, while LA firefighter Jim Clark suits up to perform the rescue.
Plan of attack was to use our aerial ladder with our rescue harness, and that's when I was suited up into it, and it's a team effort. We all make sure everything's just right, and we even exceeded the the limitations of the apparatus by doing what we did because of the position of the apparatus, so we kind of put ourselves a little bit of risk. But that's just part of the job. That's just things you have to do.
Finally, after a 3-mile trip down the roaring wash, Jordan is almost at the end of his ordeal.
He was scared, you know, he'd been sitting out there, he was cold, and Officer Grasso had a good hold on him, and when we got down there and got him off, you know, I just told him he's going to be okay and he's going to be out in a few minutes, and we just pulled him right out.
One last scary ride, and Jordan will be on solid ground in the hands of the paramedics.
They handed the child, Jordan, to me, and my concern was to get him in the back of the ambulance, to take off his clothing, to make sure he didn't have any injuries that we couldn't visibly see, and to start warming the child because, I mean, this thing had gone on probably in excess over a half an hour. This child had been in this water, and he was very, very cold and very frightened.
Now, Jim Clark returns to pick up his second passenger, Mike Grasso.
He asked me how I was doing, and I said, great, let's just get out of here. And brought me to the side, and when they put me down, I realized that I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel anything from my neck down. My hands it was hard for me to open and close my hands. And I realized that the water must have been so cold that all my body was numbed from it.
The paramedics assess the injuries and find Jordan's temperature is 9 degrees below normal, 89 degrees. Officer Grasso is at 91 degrees, and both suffer from hypothermia, but they're in remarkably good shape.
There was never a chance from the moment that he got in that water with that boy that I didn't know that both of them would come out okay. I didn't envision the hook and ladder with the guy over the edge. I didn't know that's the way it would terminate, but I knew that the boy was safe, and I knew it was going to take more than a couple of feet of water to put him in a position where he couldn't succeed, or, you know, success would not have been in his reach.
Everything worked out absolutely perfect, and everybody walked away, and no one was hurt.
Through his sense of duty, courage, and sheer grit,